Welcome to the Hive Podcast. I'm Olivia Roosh, an art student and this year's editor-in-chief. This podcast is brought to you by The Retort, MSUB's student-led news outlet. We're here to deliver relevant news to the MSUB community that is both educational and entertaining. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Okay, hi everybody. This week I have Jerry from the Health Services, and Jerry, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do here at MSUB?
Of course. I am the counseling director. I started January 4th. I came over from the University of Montana Western in Dillon, where I was in the same position for almost 5 years. And so, working in student health services with Darla and the rest of the crew there. And it's been awesome.
Great. Yeah, we had Darla on earlier when we were talking about COVID and how the university was handling COVID. She was so smart. She had so much to say, and I love talking to her. She's a really sweet person.
Darla's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
We just had our weekly meeting just right before I came over here, and it's always one of my favorite hours of the week.
Nice. Yeah. So how long have you been here at MSUB?
Since January 4th.
January 4th. Okay.
Yep.
I was going to say I haven't seen you around that often. I've been up in the student health services quite a bit. Never seen you there.
No, I'm the new guy.
All right.
I started on January 4th. But pretty familiar with MSUB and Billings. So I've known Darla for a while. Mm-hmm. So when I applied for this position, I already knew Darla. We'd worked on some MUS task forces together and some conferences and some events, and I already knew her and knew how wonderful she was. And my son has been a student here. He's in his 5th year, so already really familiar with MSUB and knowing some of the people. Then I'm from Eastern Montana, and my dad used to live in Billings, so really familiar with Billings. So it was a new gig, but one that, for all those reasons, is already super comfortable coming over here.
Great. That's the best, to come into a job that you already feel at home in.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're leaving a place that you like. I wasn't really job hunting at the time. The job just popped up, and we had been in Dillon for over 20 years and raised our family there, and bought a house there, and really sunk roots there, and so it was going to take a really good gig to get us out of there, and here it is.
Awesome. That's so nice to hear. I love meeting the staff here at MSUB. There's so many of you guys here. We have such a huge staff, and I always love hearing everybody's different stories, where they came from. They always seem to feel like MSUB is a second home for them, and they have a really strong sense of community here.
Yeah, I know. And seriously, how nice are people on this campus?
Yeah.
I thought that Montana Western had the nicest people in the world, and now I think they have the second nicest people in the world, because it's just I'm still amazed at how incredibly welcoming people are here, and the culture just feels right. People are helpful and friendly.
So helpful.
And I've loved it. One of my favorite things, among a lot of really cool things about being here, is just been getting around campus and meeting people and doing things like this. This is really cool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I am so glad to have you in the studio today.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be in the studio.
Great. So let's jump right in. I've been feeling a little overwhelmed this semester, and I know a lot of students have. Everyone I talk to, it seems like they always have a little bit too much on their plate, and personally, it's hard to deal with. And I know a lot of students struggle to separate their school life from their personal life, and it all kind of gets jumbled together, and stressors start popping up everywhere. And what kind of tips and recommendations do you have for feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you have too much going on?
That's all kind of characteristic of college students, right?
Yeah.
In general, is just students come to college to do a lot, to try a lot and do a lot and experiment a lot and expand a lot. And so that's what they do. That's what you all do when you come to college, is you just take on a lot of stuff and try a lot of stuff and find out what works and what doesn't work, and experiment with different interests, and get involved in activities and athletics, and doing things like what you're doing here, and it can really accumulate fast. And it is very characteristic for a lot of college students to have that sort of, how am I going to fit all this into a day kind of thing? And then you just like toss a pandemic onto all of that, and suddenly there's all this sort of accumulated day-to-day stress that can add up. And then you just add the kind of helplessness that's come with the pandemic, which has been very stressful. We don't like feeling helpless, right? As adult human beings, we don't like that. But I just find that particularly people on college campuses who are so used to being in control and empowered and really feeling like they have their destiny in their hands.
Like their whole life's right ahead of them.
Yeah, the idea of being they seem to experience helplessness even more intensely. Mm-hmm. It's completely and totally uncomfortable for them, and that doesn't even count some of the grief that people are experiencing in this pandemic, because we've lost so much. Right, we've lost sometimes people that we love. We've lost sometimes our health. We've lost our lifestyle, our jobs. Yep, financial security. Mm-hmm. And so then you just like stack that onto the general characteristics of what being a college student is, and there's just a lot of overwhelming students that are having overwhelming experiences out there. And then now, as we get closer to the end of the school year, you would think that would be some relief for students, especially with vaccines on the horizon. But really, there's still so much uncertainty about the summer and finding jobs and what am I going to do, and do I have to go back home? And then what is it going to look like next fall, that it's almost creating like another layer of stress. Mm-hmm. So it seems like it would be a period of relief, but it doesn't sound like it is when I talk to a lot of students. There's even more uncertainty going with, okay, like after like April 24th, then what the hell do I do?
Right. Like it's a transitional period, and that's stressful for anybody. And
like the job I had the last 2 summers doesn't even exist anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Like that restaurant is closed down, or that agency that I work for has had budget cuts. And so I have to go live with my parents? Like I went to college so I don't have to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's even another layer.
Might have to go back to the old Rent's house. Yeah, that sucks for everybody.
That sucks. Like I haven't had to be home by 11 for 4 years or 5 years.
My roof, my rules. That's how my parents do it.
No kidding. No kidding. Like check in? What? Come on, Mom. I haven't checked in.
I'm 21, Mom. You can't tell me what to do. Oh, it's my roof. I can tell you whatever I want you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is stressful. Yeah.
So, like your question was, are there any tips for that? Well, how people cope with that is just so very individualized, right? And it's, people are going to put together coping strategies that are totally unique from each other. It's really hard for me, like as a counselor who is so used to working on people one-on-one. Like if you said, if you were to ask me a question, what are some coping tips that you have for me, meaning you, like I can engage in that conversation with you and we could explore that together and I'd be comfortable with that. But whenever I'm asked questions like that, as like the community in a whole, it always kind of stumps me a little bit, because as comfortable as I am working with people one-on-one in a counseling setting and feeling like that experience is going to go where it needs to go just with the two of us, in that space at that time, giving that kind of advice to like the general population is as uncomfortable for me as the other one is comfortable for me.
Right. Well, that's a big group of people.
All a big individuals. Group of people.
Yeah. They all have different needs, wants, and aspirations. And
some people cope by being alone. Some people cope by being in a crowd. Some people recharge in quiet. Some people recharge at a festival. Some people read. Some people write. Some people build things. Some people tear things down. Some people hike. Some people take naps. Right. And so I guess the best thing I think the most important thing to understand, or the best advice I can give, which is still really not giving anybody any answers, is just to make sure that your coping plan or your survival plan or your recovery plan or whatever whatever it is just owned by you, and it's tailored for you by you, and that it feels like it fits you. You know, it can be really easy to sort of like read a lot and listen to a lot of other people and think that there are a right and a wrong way of doing things. All conventional wisdom would say that 30 minutes of physical activity a day is great for you. Well, I hate exercise, so I'm not going to do it, you know? Like, I'm happy walking around the hills with my wife or whatever, or just walking around campus, but cardio hurts. I don't like it.
I don't either.
So for me to just think that I had to do it because it's the right thing to do would just cause me more stress than just finding other ways that work better for me.
Right.
And so I think that the most important thing to do is just to make sure that you design a coping plan, recovery plan that works for you and fits your needs and wants and your schedule and your interests. That's really, really important, I think.
Definitely. I would agree. Right now, I'm actually seeing a therapist outside of MSUB, and she recommended to me to just do something that makes me happy for an hour. Just like I go downstairs and I roller skate and I dance on my roller skates for half an hour, and then I'll like doodle for another half an hour, and that just gives me the time to enjoy what I'm doing for a second.
And that's just that day, right?
Yeah.
That might not even be repeated on the next day.
It's whatever I feel like. The next day, maybe I'll cook for a little bit and cook a nice big meal to just like give me something to focus on that I enjoy doing. And it is completely different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's important, right? Because I like what you said there about your therapist encouraging you to do something that makes you happy. I think that when we do things that feel like to us that we are valuing ourselves, that's it right there, right? We're doing something self-valuing. We're sending our message to ourselves that we're valuable and worth taking care of and worth and worthy of whatever that is, whether it's roller skating or doodling or drawing or cooking or whatever it is. And I just think that that's a very powerful message. And when I do 30 minutes of cardio, I don't feel like I'm self-valuing myself. I feel like I'm destroying my lungs. But then yet other people are cool with like running 15 miles a day, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I think I like how you said that, or your therapist said that whatever makes you happy, you know, whatever feels like it's self-valuing in that moment probably is valuable.
Yeah, I like to think of it, I'm investing in myself. Like I'm investing this time into myself to make me feel better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I take my time to do that now that I realize that it's important to my mental health. Like I would just bust through school, just focus on school, and if I had time to read a book for half an hour, I'd be like, well, I can be doing other things for half an hour. I don't really have the time to do this, but I am just realizing that makes me miserable, and it makes me not want to go to school. It makes me not want to do things that I used to enjoy doing because I'm not making the time to invest in myself and make myself happy with no pressure on what the outcome is. And that's really helpful to me, I've noticed. Yeah,
very helpful.
Yeah.
I often get asked questions like this in counseling, like when I talk about self-care, and students will say, okay, like what is self-care and what does that look like? And I said, I don't know, you tell me, like you know what works for you in self-care. And they'll say a list of stuff, and I'll say, okay, all those things that you just mentioned, do more of them.
Yeah.
Do them more often, you know?
Yeah.
Don't just save it for 30 minutes at the end of the day. Like scatter self-care throughout your whole entire day.
Yeah, definitely.
Like doodle for a few minutes, then go roller skating,
Yeah.
then cook, then go for a walk. If it's 1 minute or if it's 1 hour, it's still self-care and it still matters, right? And you're still messaging yourself that you matter enough to take time to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know, whatever self-care is, you get to decide.
Yeah, I like that. I don't like being told what to do all the time, so.
It's a very like, are you from Montana?
Yeah.
It's a very Montana thing. We don't like being told what to do,
No.
which I think is actually kind of badass and cool.
Awesome. You know, I've always had personal issues with anxiety and depression, and it never really felt like it was being talked about that much outside of me and, you know, my loved ones who I can speak about it with, but just generally, I would like to assume that most of these college students here have anxiety or depression. And I'm just really relieved that a lot of people are actually taking the time to discuss it and to make awareness of it and giving it validation. Like, this is a real life problem for you, and we can work on ways to fix it and make it better. You don't have to do it by yourself. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to feel ashamed of it,
And most of the people around you can relate to your anxiety or stress, right? It's very common and it's very human, and especially on a college campus, which is a place that is deliberately stressful, right?
Yeah.
We can all relate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're all friendly about that. Mm-hmm. We can all relate. And I like how you said that, Olivia, because just the importance of having those conversations like that you were just talking about. Thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that, because stigma gets in the way, I think, of us feeling ashamed about talking about it, if we're feeling anxious or if we're feeling depressed or if we're feeling sad or if we're grieving or whatever. And stigma gets in the way of help seeking. And conversations are how we counter stigma.
Yeah.
I don't think that countering stigma requires a really big scientific, glamorous approach. I think that once we all just get comfortable talking about these things, there's going to be less stigma. So I really appreciate that you brought that up, because that's an important part about us all being stigma crusaders, is
definitely
just being comfortable having these conversations about this stuff.
Right. And I'm really optimistic and hopeful for like my generation and generations around me growing up and realizing that you can talk about it. Well, I did also want to talk very quickly about meditation, because it's always something that's interested me, and I want to know if you have any research or if you have any knowledge or what your knowledge is of it.
I love it. I do it a lot with students, one-on-one and in groups. And when I say meditation, I mean just sort of some guided meditative exercises that I use that are not specific to any sort of religion or spiritual set of beliefs or anything like that, and not specific to any certain technique. They're just basic guided relaxation exercises. And the reason why, this is one of your questions on your paper, the reason why meditation works from a therapist perspective, certainly not from a science perspective, because there's plenty of brain science out there on why meditation works. And it is certainly like validated over and over and over by research that it's effective in managing anxiety and helping with sleep problems and things like that. But from a therapist perspective, one thing that is very prevalent among college students and staff and faculty, it's very characteristic among people that are high-achieving, goal-oriented, task-oriented, which our community is full of. It's sort of the culture of a college is to always be innovative, moving forward, generating ideas, doing tasks, completing things, getting stuff done, hitting deadlines, right? That's all something that gives us purpose and meaning, but it also gives us stress and anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
But also what comes with that is a lot of woulda, shoulda, coulda. So there's a lot of stress from the past that we drag in and put that on top of the pile. And then there's always a lot of what if. So then the future stressors. So now we got this pile of past, present, and future stress that's just this big old heavy pile. And what meditation and mindfulness does is it allows us to be in the moment with whatever we're doing in the moment, whether it's breathing exercise or reading a book or watching a TV show or exercising or doodling, as you said. And quiet that woulda, shoulda, coulda, and that what if, so that we get some relief and makes the stress of the moment much more manageable for us. So we're not experiencing all anxiety all the time. That's what like wears us out and runs us down and gets in the way of us sleeping and causes these fight, flight, freeze reactions and causes us to avoid things that we otherwise would need to do or want to do, like turning in a paper or something. So when we can just like do mindfulness, then it makes it much easier to cope with just the stress of the moment, or even if that's just like the stress of the moment is just like maintaining a constant breathing pattern, right?
Right.
then it all of a sudden just feels it just feels more manageable. And the one thing that all kinds of meditation and mindfulness have in common is like commanding our breathing, managing our breathing. And it seems to be just this mechanism that we all have that doesn't require any special talent to be able to just stop and close our eyes and to slow and deepen our breathing and create an instant state of mindfulness. Like, we can all do that any minute of every day. The more we practice, the better we get at it. But even if we don't practice it, we can still do it. It's really cool. So really, there are a lot of extravagant kinds of meditation and mindfulness out there. There are a lot of different ways to do it. You can do it specific to religious and spiritual beliefs. Yoga has that piece in it, which is, yoga is like much more technical in that it's paired with poses and stretches and things like that.
Right.
But really, it's the breathing piece that's the essence of mindfulness. And when you think about it, for any of us to just stop, close our eyes, and command our breathing and slow it down and deepen it, we have to be completely mindful to do that. If we don't concentrate on our breathing and only our breathing, we can't do that.
Right.
And so it's a really spectacular way, regardless of your technique, to just command your breathing to create mindfulness, and then just quiet that woulda, shoulda, coulda, and that what if. And the more we do it, the more it helps. Okay. So if you can get up and do it for a few minutes in the morning, do it every time you have a break during the day, and then, end your day with 50 minutes of yoga or meditation, then that's wonderful. But really, all people have to do is just go on YouTube. There's like a gazillion, put your earbuds in, and there's a gazillion videos that are 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long, 50 minutes long. You can even search 5-minute guided breathing on YouTube, and it'll just pop up for you.
Right.
It doesn't have to be fancy.
No excuses for not having time to do it. You can do it for 2 minutes.
You need a phone and a pair of earbuds and a quiet place, and then you just go sit down and close your eyes. I do it in my office often.
Right. Awesome. I want to let the students at MSUB know about what resources we have here and we have in the student health services that can help them if they're feeling anxious, depressed, stressed. What do we have for them here?
Well, we have 2 counselors. There's myself and then Dr. Vicki Burford, who she always describes this as her retirement gig. So she's with us 2 days a week. She's wonderful. She's experienced. She's been at MSU Billings for a long time. She's super familiar with the place and the students and the culture, and she's really wonderful. So we have 2 therapists. If students have if they're taking more than seven credits or more, then they pay the student health fee and they have access to those services for no additional cost. So we don't do any third-party billing or anything like that. It's super easy to get an appointment. You just call the student health services office or just walk into the office and make an appointment. But we also have medical providers and nurses there too, all accessible with the student health fee.
Nice.
And if students are registered for less than 7 credits, that doesn't mean they can't access student health services. That just means they weren't automatically billed the student health fee. So they can still pay the student health fee separately at the start of any of those semesters to still access student health services.
Right. I think I did that over the summer one time and just paid one little fee at the beginning and then had full access to it. It was awesome.
Full access.
It was great. Yeah. Really, I love going to student health services. Everybody is so nice up there, and
it's not
they
just
just
friendly.
They just want to take care of you. They just want to make
that's
you feel
all we
better.
want to do.
Yeah, I love it. It's
we just want y'all to be okay.
Yeah, making sure we're all just getting through it okay. Yeah, I
exactly.
love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much.
Talking for us a little bit about mental health awareness. I really am glad that we can give the students something to help with all of this stress. I know it's really bad out there right now.
And another message I'd like to share, if it's okay, Olivia, before we're all done, is it's something that I mentioned on the town hall last week, is that as we're moving into recovery from this pandemic, we're all going to experience recovery, right? And that recovery is going to be very different for everybody. But just encouraging people to, after a year of helplessness because of this pandemic and not really being able to do anything about curing it or stopping it or adjusting to it or mitigating because of it, right? We were given no choice in any of that. But fortunately, we do have a lot of choices in our recovery. So I would just like to encourage people to just write their own recovery story and just take back that sense of empowerment. We're all being given that. recovery opportunity. What a perfect time for us to just grab that and re-empower ourselves and just write that story however we need to write it, because it's been a year. It's time to get back in the driver's seat.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to be so completely different for every single individual person.
Yep.
And I have my journal I write in, so I'll write my recovery plan in
Good
there.
for you.
And I'll stick to it. But if I write it down, I'll do it.
Don't forget to breathe while you write in your journal. It's great.
Right.
Mindfulness pairing.
Yes, I will start breathing. I used to just hold my breath while I was writing the whole time.
Yeah.
Now I'll start breathing.
Yeah, just deep breathe.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Jerry.
Thank you, Olivia.
Absolutely love talking to you about this. And
Anytime.
Anytime. All right. We'll probably have you on again. This is great. I love this stuff.
Yeah, I know. We could just sit here and geek out about this stuff.
I know. Yeah, it's super great. I
agree.
I love mental health. Just bettering yourself just makes you happier, and that's the goal, right? You just
I
want to
love
be
that.
happy. Yeah.
There's the slogan right there. Just bettering yourself makes you happier. I love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Put a pause on this now. Thank you for tuning in to the Hive Podcast. You can follow The Retort on Instagram and like us on Facebook for more content. Feel free to reach out with ideas for future episodes through our social media or email us at retort@msubillings.edu. Find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Today's episode was sponsored by MSUB's student government, ASMSUB.